Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is facing accusations of creating a registry of transgender people in the Lone Star State after his office requested the Department of Public Safety to compile a list of individuals who had changed their gender on their Texas driver's license and other department records during the past 2 years. According to documents obtained by the Washington Post, the chief of the DPS's driver's license division emailed colleagues on June 30th asking for the, quote, total number of changes from male to female and female to male for the last 24 months. The communication was labeled AG Request Sex Change Data.
A representative for Texas DPS told the Post in a statement a verbal request was received. Ultimately, our team advised the AG's office the data requested neither exists nor could be accurately produced. Thus, no data of any kind was provided. So I read this story, and it's very unclear why, for what purpose this was asked. I think there was a lot of concern, which is understandable, but it's not. I don't know that they were trying to create some kind of registry. They were asking for the raw total, not for names. Identifying information of who did it. I would still object to them asking for that information. Just like I started to get weirded out when like the census wants to know everything about your. Everything. I don't know. Okay. It's too much. Like, leave me alone, government. Well, I stop counting people.
Well, that's the thing. Historically, in Europe, especially because of the legacy of the Holocaust, there's a lot of stigma around these kinds of lists. Mm-hmm. A lot of countries in Europe don't keep
who
the
else
same
kept
kind
lists?
of. That is exactly the point. They don't. These countries now, because of that legacy, don't keep the same kind of demographic information that is pretty routine in the United States, and which we tend to associate with being able to track disparities and bad things that can potentially be happening in a population so that they can be cured and not invisibilized. And it's a double-edged sword, right? I think that some people say, because of the context, this is Texas, there's a negative implication about what that information is going to be used for. If this had happened in Massachusetts, probably people would be thinking, good, they're making sure that all of the trans people are okay, and they're tracking them for that reason. And in Europe, it's both, too.
What do you think Ken Paxton would have used it for?
Well, we see bills trying to criminalize folks, parents.
So for talking points, it'd say 12,000 people changed their sex identification this year, and this is bad. There was that viral moment of Matt Walsh, kind of embarrassingly, I think it was on maybe Joe Rogan, embarrassingly, grossly overestimating how many trans people actually transitioned in a given year by that was pretty embarrassing.
Orders of magnitude, thousands and thousands of
Michael Tracy, who is no conservative or progressive, is an interesting
in a liminal space,
independent journalist. I would point it out. It does not say something. It does not say anything good about you if you your signature issue. You can't even put the statistics within the realm of a factor of whatever it is.
I think it's a few hundred, and he estimated it thousands and thousands. So that's all to say, in Europe, oftentimes there are problems understanding exactly what's going on with minority communities because they don't keep that kind of information. And it's not clear to me how you guarantee that information like that is ever used positively, equitably, as opposed to keep people down. But, everyone right now is talking about fascism, and are they coming for, that famous poem, first they came from the communists, and then they came for, and I didn't care, and then eventually they came for me. Mm-hmm. People are asking whether or not some of the focus on trans issues right now, which get a lot of traction because I do think it's one of the newer cultural spaces to open up, and a lot of people are learning and working through their feelings about changing norms and the way that happens in a changing culture, that it's very easy to make them the focal point of a lot of these attacks, and they're concerned that this is kind of opening the gate to ratcheting up critiques of various communities that get bigger and bigger and bigger and closer and closer and closer to the average American until we look up one day and discover that there's lists of a lot of us for a lot of different reasons, and that information is then weaponized. Do you think that that's a kind of a hyperbolic concern?
As I said, I never want to discount anyone for being worried about the government counting or tracking things excessively. I have a kind of garden variety libertarian paranoia about all of these things. Mm-hmm. You know how I feel about airport security, that real ID. They can delay it till the next century. For
Okay,
all I
but you
care.
were very open to Jeff Bezos putting a chip in your arm so you could check out of the grocery store more quickly. Robby, let us not forget.
Well, that's
Pull
different.
up the tape.
That's different. And I'm absolutely gonna put that tracking device in my suitcase.
Yeah,
for,
the Apple tracker.
yeah.
We did a segment last week about women who have some security
I don't
concerns.
think it aired yet.
Oh, we
No,
have
we
a
did not.
segment coming
In
up.
the future, we are going to interview someone about something.
Yes, people are using it to stalk others, but it also helps you find your keys.
Right.
And there is an alert function that lets you know if there's a device in your vicinity, so you can at least know if someone's trying to track you. But yeah, look, that's the problem with this technology. A lot of it is very convenient and it's helpful. People like having the Amazon security cameras. They just might not necessarily want to consent to those tapes being used for a funniest home TV show reel that they're not being compensated for, or to get them in trouble with the law because they're being surveilled in that way.
Yeah, you know what? No, I'm with the irritated trans people on this one. At the next press conference Ken Paxton does, he should be asked why he made this request. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No qualifications.
Yeah.
This weirds me out. Bugs me. Don't like it.
Yeah, look, I do think there's something to the idea that, like, historically, what fascists have done is found a group small enough that no one really cares about how they're being attacked. And that circle gets widened slowly. And it's a little bit of one of those frogs in boiling water situations where nobody notices until it's too late. If you turn up if you put a frog.
What are you doing to
If you put a
frogs?
frog in water and turn the heat up slowly, it won't jump out, it'll die. If you drop a frog in boiling water, it will jump out immediately. So the gradualness of it all endures us to new circumstances, no matter how harmful it is, until it's basically too late. So it's something to think about, regardless of how you feel about some of the excesses of wokeness, whatever you perceive to be an excess. That it's rarely the case historically that it stops with a group that you're relatively indifferent to.
All right, well, we'll have more Rising after this. Please stay with us.